Before we get going, I need to thank our sponsors, AkzoNobel, for helping the industry's most important conversations to take place. So thank you to them. Without further ado, let's get going. Welcome to the ICOMIA podcast, where we're supporting the marine industry's most important conversations. Welcome everybody to another episode of the ICOMIA podcast, which holds the industry's most important conversations. Today we're going to sit down with Ulrich. Nice to see you, Ulrich.
Nice to see you.
To hear about a particularly important topic that I can't say I've got a huge amount of knowledge about, and you often don't really hear, but is one of those important functions that takes place in the background of the industry.
Correct.
So could you introduce yourself and what your involvement and ties to ICOMIA are?
Yeah. So my name is Ulrich Manigel. I'm working as managing director for a notified body, IMCI, which is the International Marine Certification Institute. IMCI is a sustaining member of ICOMIA.
Yeah.
And the background is that we bring technical expertise to the group via the technical committee, but also the broad mean to ICOMIA. That's why it was a sustaining member of ICOMIA.
Yeah. And so what's the really key importance of this whole thing? Why does this matter?
Yeah. It does matter because it's something, as you said, in the background, which is for the end consumer.
Yeah.
It's so clear that if you buy a product, that it's safe.
Yeah.
So you buy a washing machine, you buy a handy, you buy whatever, and you expect that it's safe. And the same for the boat.
Yeah.
You buy a boat, and you expect that it's safe. So, and the safety, that's what we're doing in the background. So we assess the boats, the prototypes of the boats, and we check that they comply with the directive, it's called, which is basically the law in Europe, where this so the boat must comply to these directive. That's the first step.
Yeah.
But then in the background, what you have a lot of ISO standards, ISO standards. I think a lot of people know ISO 9000.
Yeah, I think that's fairly well recognized. We've got another episode with Patrick Hemp.
Yes.
Who does an awful lot of work around there. So we can find out more on that episode. But so go from there. So yes, we've got ISOs, and it's fairly well recognized. And what else do we have around that?
No, it is really the ISO world.
Okay.
So the difference is that we are the ones that apply the standards as a notified body, as it is called. We are granted by the state, in our case it's Belgium, to issue the certificate, which is a high level of safety. We are also accredited for that every year. So we are somehow not a governmental company, of course. We are independent non-profit organization.
Yeah.
However, we are granted so notified at the commission service for that. We have a number for that. So that's why we apply all these standards to the yachts, and we pretty much know what works, what does not work. And where are, let me say, caveats, where do we have to assess the boat? And sometimes you have like new upcoming techniques or designs where we then have to apply standards and see, okay, the standard must be changed.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a guide through that process and what the best practices are at the moment, but then also at the end of the day, certifying it formally, saying it is of a safe standard. This should be recognized as a reliable and safe product.
Correct. Yeah. My terms are sometimes a bit, like a law, but it can be placed on the market. That's the term. So the boat can be placed on the market, gets a CE mark by the manufacturer. We issue the prototype certificate.
Yeah.
And what the end consumer knows is that you have these design categories, A, B, C, D, so they can use a boat in sea conditions, which means a lower wind and wave height than for A category with the big yachts have.
Okay, yeah.
So this is something at the end, what the consumer notice also when he purchases a boat, there are the design categories where they're looking for and the number of persons they can put on the boat. The assessment behind, that's what we have done at the end of the day.
Yeah. And is it always for the entire boat? So is it specifically with shipyards and boatyards, or could it be individual products on board as well?
Yeah, it's both. Well, we're working with big brands, which have serial production, but it could also be you have somebody wishing to have a design for one unique sailing boat or powerboat, and that's the same principle of assessment, but it's only valid for this specific boat, not this boat. And then you have the case that sometimes boats are imported to Europe, for example, from US. Somebody sees a boat in the US, I want to have that. They brought to the market, and then we have to make a reassessment of the boat, this unique boat, because this private importer has brought the boat to Europe. So these are different.
Yeah, but it may have been built to the certifications in the US in this particular example.
Correct.
And so if they differ from the European ones, we need to make sure that they meet the standards to be
Right.
available on the market in the European region.
Exactly. We prove that the boat really complies to the standards over here when everything, and sometimes the boat also used, they may be changed, so we have to check those.
So what are the more intricate challenges with this that you're dealing a lot with today that are perhaps not traditional nuances that have come your way? But in 2025, what kind of, is it technologies? Is it different hull designs? What are the nuances of today?
Yeah, there are several key aspects which are interesting. One is electric propulsion.
Okay.
Because electric propulsion, we all got news that there have been a few cases only, but which get a high, the industry is very sensible to these few cases about promise of fire on boats due to electric propulsion and lithium-ion batteries. So this is really a point, electrification, because what we will see in the next years in Europe in certain areas like Amsterdam now, like other areas, is craft conversion from combustion engine to electric propulsion so that the boats are still allowed to go there. And we are also dealing with that. Then hull design, I would say foiling.
Right, okay, yeah, of course.
Foiling boats.
Yeah.
Here the point is that the current law, so the directive, does not cover foil boats. But somehow you have to find an approach to deal with the boats and the safety of the boats.
So what happens there? So some, let's call it a radically different technology.
Correct.
Because it's fundamentally going to change the design and what a boat's capabilities are, etc. How do you then start constructing a certification appropriate for that?
Yeah, for foil is really difficult because we cannot certify the boats because they're exempted in the law. So the only thing we could do is, in principle, pick up different or some things of these boats and confirm that at least in these areas they comply with the standards. That's what we could do. At the end, the whole process, seeing it from an industry perspective, is also there to protect the yacht, right? When the boat complies, it's not only for the end consumer, a good process and a thoroughly done inspection protects the yacht, and that's what the yacht wants.
Well, because if that wasn't there, then the yard might bring a boat to the market that would face significant issues a few years down the line when the manufacturer is up and running and maybe it's production and things. So let's catch that early.
Could be a boomerang, right? Could be a boomerang coming back. So a good inspection and a thoroughly inspection and process is very important for the yard. It's not just to burn, the guys with the certifications are going on. It's more to protect them also.
Yeah.
And the yards that understand that we also there to somehow certify the product, but also help them in order to reduce, mitigation of risks, right? That's the point here. If they understand that, then it's a good way to certify a product.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think the overall work together somehow between notified bodies and the industries and the manufacturers is so important.
Yeah, the collaboration there can be very helpful because
It is. Otherwise, you cannot sell a boat.
Yeah, and without the knowledge of what's actually taking place and the reality behind all the operations, how the boat's being used, in which regions, etc., you can't possibly then be expected to create a certification that suits it so nicely. So by bringing all that knowledge together, you're then well informed and can deliver.
And the last thing you want as a manufacturer is an accident report somewhere in some of these yacht magazines.
Yeah.
With your name.
Yeah.
If you don't want that.
It's a lot of
So that's why compliance is really a key issue. And this is what we are doing at the end of the day. But also giving our expertise from the process back to, for example, ICOMIA and other stakeholders like ISO in order to achieve and give input for the next directive. So the laws we are working on the next directive, which will be a regulation.
Yeah.
So we give our input in order to make this one better.
Yeah, you facilitate the evolution so that it's better and better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's have a little nod to the future. So over time and the way these are developed, are there any clever things you're doing with, for example, databases or data manipulation and things like that to inform these decisions? Or is there anything particularly interesting with how it's being developed today as opposed to how it traditionally has?
I would say we have a good process today. How we work also with ICOMIA and Patrick M, for example, from ICOMIA.
Yeah.
Because if we find any caveats, we send it over to ICOMIA, they collect it, and they then give that to the ISO committees. So just at this minute, one of my colleagues from my company is sitting here in an ISO working group for stability.
Right.
So we are really active in that to help the industry to improve the standards. And that's also going together with ICOMIA to the ISO working groups. And then on another path, through the group of notified bodies, at the end to commission service. So we're working from both ends to improve it. I would say the way we work in the industry has improved due to the good work and collaboration with the other stakeholders.
Yeah.
Which is ICOMIA, which is EBI for sure.
Yeah.
And the ISO working group. And of course, that helps to improve for the whole industry and stakeholders the process. Not making it easier, but smoother and avoid
Refinement.
refinement and avoid that we have caveats.
Yeah.
We don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that, especially with certifications. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your insights, Ulrich.
You're welcome.
And a really important conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, I'd like to thank our sponsor, AkzoNobel, for helping these conversations take place. We, of course, hope that conversation is important to you. Feel free to look at other ICOMIA podcast episodes to hear plenty more of a similar nature. All being well, we'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.